Welcome back, fellow babies, to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. We are thankful if you're a Patreon patron of SIFTD. If you're not, it's easy to sign up. Just go to Patreon. You can find it quickly. You can pay as much as you want, but a couple bucks a month gets you access to me, which would be great. That helps pay for all the production. I get none of it. I'm not compensated, but Shane is a good guy. He incurs lots of expense to put this thing on. So appreciate it. Appreciate your patronage. You're getting something of value, and we appreciate if you could at least acknowledge that. If you can't afford that and you happen to have an Amazon Prime membership, which should be a lot of you, it's super easy to link your Prime account to your Twitch account. Costs you nothing. The link is below. Amazon pays us a couple of bucks a month. So please try to do that. Just look at the link below, click through. Signing up takes 30 seconds, and then renewing it each month is one click. So please click if you haven't done so in a while. First question this week from Patreon, from Dan. Sony isn't attending E3 2019, but do you think it will still release new trailers and other videos for the show? There are rumors flying around about a PS4 Super Slim. Do you think it will omit the optical drive like the Xbox One S all digital? Good question. For sure, Sony will have another version of the PS4. And I'm not sure, I lost track in the PS3 era, but I want to say there were 7 of them. I think there were 7 PS3s. I'm not 100% sure. And I'm thinking back, and I'm talking about like the 20 terabyte, not terabyte, 20 gigabyte, 30 gigabyte, 60 gigabyte, 80 gigabyte, 120 gigabyte, 500 gigabyte, 1 terabyte. I think that there were 7, but I could be wrong, and it could have been the Xbox 360 had 7, but it was somewhere in there, 5 to 7. So Sony's overdue for a new model. And the point of new models is that all that the console manufacturer is doing is cutting the cost to them of manufacturing the console, then passing on that cost saving to the subscriber, to the consumer, to induce them to buy a console at a lower price, hopefully get a new customer, sell them a bunch of software, make their money on the royalty. So the reason Microsoft eliminated the drive on the Xbox One S all digital edition, I think they called it. By the way, dumbest name ever. I even told them how dumb that was. I'm like, why do you call it Xbox One S? Why don't you call it Xbox One D or DE or something? Well, we want everybody to know it's just as powerful as the Xbox One S. And I go, yeah, easier to educate them about that than to educate them after they buy it that it doesn't have a disk drive. And they're like, no, we're putting a sticker on the box. I'm like, but you don't need a sticker if you call it Xbox One Digital. You know, like Xbox One ND, no disc. You know, like come on. And they were like, yeah, thanks for the advice. No, the device itself isn't dumb. The naming is dumb. So Sony, the disk drive, because it's got, the drive has a motor and probably costs like between 10 and 20 bucks to make. I mean, it's not like this $300 to make a Blu-ray drive. But it's got a laser and it's got a disk drive, it's a drive and a motor, and because of that it consumes a little more power and it requires a little different configuration of fan and all that stuff. So they're cutting out, at least 10 bucks in the cost of the manufacturer, maybe more. And then obviously it weighs less without all that stuff, so they're cutting out some shipping costs. Interestingly, with the Xbox, they didn't change the box itself. So I haven't even seen an Xbox One S digital edition, but I don't know what happens to the hole, the slot for disc. I assume they just shoved a piece of plastic in there, but I haven't even seen it. And so, believe it or not, cutting that slot into the plastic is an extra step in the manufacturing process. Probably costs a penny or whatever, 5 cents. But they're cutting that out. So everything about it is just a little bit cheaper. And Sony's in the same position to do the same thing. So I don't think Microsoft is saying, we hate GameStop and we want to fuck them over and we don't want to ever support disc sales. I think they're saying there is a consumer out there who wants to pay 50 bucks less for an Xbox, and we can cut the price by 50 bucks. Now the sad part, and pun intended, Xbox One S all digital, the sad part about both of these, is that you're not really seeing a discount that jumps out at you. So when Microsoft told me $249 for the Xbox One S digital edition, I was like, isn't the Xbox One S $249? Like, no, recommended retail price $299. And I'm like, I was on the phone with him. I'm like on my PC and I go, look at Xbox One, $229 at Walmart for an Xbox One S. I'm like, $249 at GameStop, $249 at Costco. And I'm like, so then I went to the Xbox website, $299. And I think the Walmart one for $229 might have even had Battlefield included. And so I asked them, I was on the phone with them, I'm like, so how are you going to compete with cheaper Xbox One S's that do have a disc drive? Well, those are all promotional pricing, and you can bet that we'll always be priced $50 below. So I assume that, they're going to offer the Xbox One S digital edition for $199 on special with Forza, Horizon or something bundled. But I think it's confusing the consumer. Sony's got the same problem. I think the PlayStation is still nominally $299 as well, but it's $249 everywhere. They've been messing around with pricing, and I think that they hope to get a consumer who just doesn't know any better, who overpays. So I mean, personal anecdote. So I'm wearing these quite old shoes, but they're very cool. I mean, they're starting to die here. These Olukai, I think they might be here where I was looking for it. Anyway, it's Hunai or something. I forgot the brand, but anyway, they're all leather. Like, this is like leather, cool. It's cool with rubber on the bottom. And my buddy comes over with a new pair of these yesterday. And he's like, oh, look, I got the same shoes. He goes, I was really surprised they went up to $130. And I'm like, fuck, I think I paid like $90. Now, these aren't new, right? But they're not, I mean, I probably had them 2 years or 3 years. So I look them up, and on the Olukai website, I just went to their website, 110, okay? And I go, dude, they're 110. And he goes, I bought them today at Nordstrom for 130. And I'm like, yeah, no, exactly. I bought them for today. And so, I think console manufacturers assume that there are doofuses like my friend who paid $20 more than you could get them on the manufacturer's website. If it's 110 on the Olukai website, you can find them on Amazon. And the problem with Amazon is they have every shoe made, so it's hard to find them. But you can get them for 110 or less. And he paid 130. So Sony, I think, and Microsoft hope that you are that dumbass who will pay, $299 for a PlayStation and $299 for an Xbox One, when you can get them for $229 all over the place, and you get the digital edition maybe for $199. Anyway, the answer is there's two kinds of consumers. There's price conscious and everybody else. The price conscious guy isn't going to do it until it's on sale. Everybody else is going to buy it because they want it. And so these slim editions come for the price conscious consumer, and I think the answer is yes, you're going to see one. Yes, it'll omit the optical drive, but that's not a GameStop hate thing. That's the new CEO of GameStop's coming to my party. That's not a GameStop hate thing. That's just a lower cost. I got to say, that whole Nintendo Direct and Sony doing the same thing, it's a very Japanese thing. Remember Nintendo Direct, the first 5? Everybody's like, oh my God, tune it in. And I remember logging on, and I would see like how many people were watching it at a time, and it was like 1 million. Yeah. And then the next time it was like 500,000. Then it was like 200. Then now it's like 1,000.
Well, it's a lot more than that, but you're right. The audience for it is like
and I'm not
saturation.
I'm not saying that they're not interesting. They're still interesting, but you can watch them later. Like, you don't need to watch them when the news breaks. So sure, yes, Sony's going to have videos during E3. Best of both worlds. I mean, but I think they blew it. I just think they blew it. Maybe they'll do it during their former slot at 6 p.m. Pacific time on Monday. I don't care if they have videos. Like, whatever. Sure, they're going to have videos. Last of Us, Part 2. Our next question from Patreon, from my favorite Patreon patron, Nick Carney, who claims I said his name right. Go, Nick. A while back, you predicted that in 2019, Microsoft would give Windows PCs the ability to play Xbox games. Earlier this year, Microsoft was actually testing this exact feature with a product called Windows Game Core. What do you expect this feature to look like when it's officially announced? Will there be licensing issues, back catalog? Do you think all Xbox games will work, or will they have to specifically be added to service? So look, it's hard to pull this off. And obviously, to work on a Windows PC, if the game isn't on PC, if it doesn't have a PC version, something has to be done to make it work. It's the same with Google Stadia. It's like, what is that, Linux or something. I mean, in order to work, you have to rewrite the game. I have no clue. Like I said, I freaking literally learned computer programming with punch cards. Like, I don't really know how to do it. But, you know, it's complicated. And those of you who know how to do code probably think it's easy and you can do it in your sleep, but it takes effort and it takes a team and it takes them a while. And I don't know how to translate a game from, you know, Xbox language into Google Stadia, or from PlayStation language into Google Stadia, but it can be done. If it's a PC game already, and it works on Windows PC, sure, they can put that in pretty quick. But I don't know what it's going to look like when it's officially announced. I have a feeling Microsoft is going to announce this all at E3, and I think that they're going to announce it as part of their streaming service. So I think they're going to basically say you can stream or download, or, you know, put it on your Xbox and play it on your Windows Anywhere PC. I'm sorry, Xbox Anywhere, Windows 10 PC. They're going to do something that is exactly what Google Stadia is doing, plus. And the plus is just going to be because we're Xbox and we have Xbox Live already built, and we have, you know, all these Xbox One proprietary first-party games. As far as the licensing issues back catalog, for sure, you have to license the game to offer it for consumption elsewhere. So when the game, so let's say, I mean, let's go like a simple example. Let's say FIFA 14, right, and FIFA 15. Those are Xbox One games. If you want to put FIFA 14 and 15 on any other service, you have to get EA's permission. You're not, you know, EA granted you the license for FIFA to be on the Xbox One. If you're going to put it on another device, even just Windows 10 PC, you have to get Microsoft to agree. And if you're charging people for that service, so if I don't know if Microsoft's going to charge $10 or it's going to say it's part of the Xbox experience. Part of it is, if you have FIFA 18 and you bought it on disc, and now you want to put an Xbox One S digital up in your, you know, man cave, can you play FIFA? You should be able to, but you can't take, in the real world, you can take your disc from one Xbox to another, but with this thing you can't. And so they have to get permission from EA. So I think the hang up is, if we're letting you play it a second time, EA would understand it. They'd be like, yeah, you can do it, but you still have to ask permission because it's a second game. So, you know, so I think those are issues that you face with all of these services, that if you're giving people the ability to play a game that's not in the format that they originally bargained for, you are giving that consumer a second use of the game, and that second use, the manufacturer of the game, the developer of the game, is entitled to being paid for that. That makes sense. You give the consumer more flexibility. So think about this like, you know, pay-per-view movie, and you want to watch it a second time. You know, you got to pay again. And so you say, well, if I buy the DVD, I don't have to pay again. If you buy the digital edition, which you can do on a movie, can you watch it on any of your devices anywhere? No. You can watch it on the device you downloaded it to. No, all Xbox games will not work, and yes, they will have to be specifically added to the service. I don't see the publishers, the developers really getting pissed about this, as long as it really looks like the same guy who bought the game gets to play it. It will really piss them off if it's like, well, we're sharing an account. I bought FIFA at my house, and now I'm playing 10 miles away in another person's house on their Windows PC. And that's the problem with digital. When you have a physical disc, you can buy FIFA and you can take it to your friend's house and play it, like, for sure. So those of you who think, I don't care if I have a physical disc, it matters for sharing, for sure. All right, this one I have a little trouble with. From YouTube, from Sigarg. Why does the Sonic the Hedgehog movie look so bad? They're listening to fan feedback, but shouldn't they have done that before they filmed it? Do the movie studios think video game films are an easy cash-in regardless of how good they are? Historically, video game films have been really shitty, okay? And I could give a shit about Sonic the Hedgehog, so I have to apologize. Like, I literally think I watched like 5 seconds of the trailer and was like, don't care, and I'm not gonna see it, and I don't care. It's interesting because I think Sonic is a pretty recognizable video game character, but when I say pretty recognizable, he's not close to Mario, like not like a small fraction of Mario. And how many Mario movies have there been, you know, that have done great? And I mean, there has been one. I remember Super Mario Brothers with Bob Hoskins as Mario the plumber was really dumb. You know, I would say the Pokemon characters, Pikachu, probably much more recognizable than Sonic, just because Pokemon has sold so many tens of millions of copies. I mean, probably hundreds of millions of copies. So I don't know. And again, I played, the only Sonic games I've played this decade are Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games on the Wii. I think I played that. In 12, it might have been the Wii U, but I think I played it on the Wii. And just because I think those games are fun. Like, I just think they're goofy and fun. I mean, I think Sonic is a 1990s throwback, maybe 2000s throwback. I don't think most young people have any clue what Sonic is. Prove me wrong, because I don't really know. So look, the Avengers Endgame did 1.2 billion in the first 5 days. Sonic's gonna do 100 million?
Maybe.
Right, who cares? Global box office is 30 billion. We're talking about a movie that is gonna be a fraction of 1%. Nobody cares but you. Nobody cares. There's a million vocal, loudmouth, whiny Sega fans in the world. There's 30 million Sega fans, but they're not vocal and whiny.
I think you have the fans to speak for the people who don't take the time to speak.
Agreed, but I don't think anybody cares about this movie except Sega fans. So I agree. I agree with the premise that if you're making a movie for Sega fanboys, you should make the movie that Sega fanboys want to see. Yes, they should have done it before. You know, look this up because I don't know the answer, but look up on IMDb the budget for this movie. You'll find it. It's got to be tiny. Our last question this week from YouTube from Brazen Maniac. It appears that Respawn's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is not a game as a service and will not have microtransactions. It may make some gamers happy, but what about EA investors? Why would EA allow Respawn to make a game like this but not BioWare? Yeah, good question. You know, I think that the easy answer to that question is because Disney was pissed about the last Star Wars game. And the last Star Wars game, A, wasn't very good, and B, they botched the microtransactions badly and yanked them, if you recall. So my guess, without obviously having any inside information, is that EA and Disney had a talk that day, and Disney said, your greed is not going to get in the way of our, promoting our brands. And the reason we licensed Star Wars to you, EA, is because you have the potential to be a world-class publisher, and we expect world-class games when you license our properties. And I think that's a fair expectation. EA is a world-class publisher, and EA, put DICE on the last Star Wars game and Respawn on this one. We can argue about how good either studio is, but DICE historically has been a very good studio. Respawn is probably now EA's best studio. And I think EA owes Disney the obligation, if EA is gonna license their property, to make a phenomenal game. And I think that microtransactions got in the way of Star Wars Battlefront 2. I think that, that game would have probably been rated 10 or 12 points higher had there been no microtransactions. So I think Disney probably said, don't fuck up our brand anymore. I think EA agrees, because I think EA is certainly not trying to do a bad job. I mean, they're not, and so your question about investors, that's the real problem. That, EA is owned by the public. Its management are in a position of being stewards of the public's capital, and its management is making the best decisions they can make to benefit shareholders while keeping in mind the interests of their constituents, their gamers. And I think EA probably tilted a little too far to generating a lot of revenue and profit, and they paid a little bit too little attention to making a phenomenal game, and I don't think they're going to make that mistake with Respawn. So my bias is they put the A team on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It's going to be a phenomenal game, and they're not going to make any mistakes that can screw it up. So important to EA to get that Star Wars brand back and make sure Disney's happy with it, so that there's 5 more Star Wars games, and I think that's going to happen. I don't think you could pick a better developer, than Respawn and Stig Asmussen to make Jedi Fallen Order. It's going to be great, and I think it's going to be a fun experience. I think that EA gets its mojo back. It would be great if they just made all their studios Respawn. You know, if everybody did as good a job as Respawn on every game, EA would be #1 by a mile in the publisher, you know, world. And I think EA knows that. So frankly, I think they're doing the right thing, and I think, you know, so what? They make a little bit less profit. BioWare works on owned IP, so you don't have a license holder who's upset if they do something wrong with microtransactions in Anthem or Mass Effect or Dragon Age. That's their own IP that they're harming. And look, EA doesn't set out to screw up its IP, you know, obviously. So, you know, EA is going to get this right. This loot box thing is a recent phenomenon where gamers just decided they hated them. You know, people used to deal with it. I mean, we have rec packs in Halo and supply drops, what are they called, in Call of Duty. And, you know, we've just had these forever, and suddenly gamers hate them. And, you know, whatever. I get it. It's the death of 1,000 cuts if you're a gamer. It's like, I didn't mind buying 1, now I got to buy 5 just to get off the ground and level up from level 1 to level 2. I totally get it. You guys are just a bunch of whiny little pricks. I mean, you guys complain about everything. And, you know, my attitude is, if you don't like loot boxes, don't buy them. And if you don't like loot boxes in the game, don't buy the game. But if you buy the game, deal with it. It is what it is. And it's one thing if you say, I didn't know. So when you buy Anthem, maybe you didn't know. If you buy FIFA, you know, FIFA 20, is that what this year's going to be? Yeah, you buy FIFA 20, I'm pretty sure FIFA's been around for more than 20 years. Like, you've had 20 years to figure out that they have this shit. 10 years at least for Ultimate Team. You can't say, I didn't know they charged you for players. Like, whatever. Play the single player game. Don't play Ultimate Team, and it's really fun. Please, if you can, patronize us on Patreon. If you can't, please look at the link below and connect your Prime account to your Twitch account, and we'll get paid, and it costs you nothing. So no excuse if you're a Prime member. It costs nothing. Link the accounts. And all of you, follow me on Twitter. If you just spent 25 minutes watching me ramble on for saying nothing, then trust me, I only tweet like once a day. Shit, I've been on Twitter since 2011. I think I have 2,000 tweets. Like, tough it out. I'm not that crazy. So follow me on Twitter, and every once in a while you'll get a little pearl of wisdom and feel really, really rewarded for that. At Michael Pachter, follow, excuse me, follow Shane at Dinfire, follow SIFTD at SIFTD Games. See you next week.